That colorful box in your freezer promises a home-cooked meal without the effort. Pop it in the microwave for 5 minutes, and dinner is served. But what if I told you that innocent-looking lasagna might contain more sodium than 3 bags of potato chips, more sugar than a candy bar, and protein held together with industrial binding agents originally designed for something closer to glue than food? Before you tear open that next frozen dinner, you might want to hear what food scientists, former factory workers, and independent lab testers have been saying. The frozen meal industry has mastered making processed mystery look like comfort food. They have built an empire on exhaustion, selling you the illusion of a real meal while filling those trays with preservatives you cannot pronounce, meat that is more concept than reality, and vegetables blanched and treated until barely recognizable. Americans spend over $11 billion on frozen meals every year. That is billions spent on dinners that promise nutrition, deliver sodium bombs, and hide secrets behind vague labels like natural flavors and modified food starch. Most people never read past the first 3 ingredients. But former employees have started speaking out, and what they are revealing should make you think twice. Go ahead, check your freezer right now. Pick up one of those boxes and flip it over. Can you pronounce everything on that list? Do you know what tertiary butyl hydroquinone actually does to your body? If you have ever wondered why your frozen dinner tastes simultaneously bland and overpowering, or why you feel bloated 30 minutes after eating, stick around. Drop a comment below and tell us which frozen dinner brand is sitting in your freezer right now. Hit like if you are ready to learn what you have really been eating, and subscribe because we are about to pull back the curtain on an industry that profits from your exhaustion. Let us start with something that might make your blood pressure rise. Literally. We are talking about salt, more than you ever imagined could fit in a single meal. A single frozen dinner can contain more than your entire recommended daily sodium intake. We are not talking about a slight excess. Some popular frozen meals pack over 2,300 milligrams of sodium into one serving. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 1,500 milligrams per day for most adults. One dinner, and you have already blown past your limit before breakfast even happens. Why do manufacturers dump so much salt into these trays? 3 reasons: preservation, flavor masking, and cost. Salt is cheap, covers up bland, low-quality ingredients, and keeps meals shelf-stable for months. A former food scientist admitted that sodium levels are calculated not based on health, but on the minimum amount needed to make people crave another bite. He said, "We are not feeding people. We are engineering repeat purchases." A popular frozen Salisbury steak dinner contains more sodium than 2 large orders of McDonald's fries. A single serving of frozen chicken fried rice has more salt than 11 servings of potato chips. High sodium intake leads to elevated blood pressure, stroke risk, kidney strain, and chronic water retention. One emergency room doctor shared that when he asks hypertension patients about their diet, frozen dinners show up more often than fast food. Manufacturers add salt at multiple stages of production. The meat is brined in salt solution. The sauce is loaded with sodium. The vegetables are treated with salt-based preservatives. Even the pasta or rice is pre-seasoned. By the time that tray reaches your microwave, it has been salted at least 4 separate times. A former factory worker said, "We would dump salt into everything. There was a running joke that if you wanted to preserve a body, just dip it in our seasoning vat. But salt is just the opening act. The real mystery begins when you ask what that protein actually is." That piece of grilled chicken on your frozen meal might be mechanically separated poultry, soy protein, and binding agents held together with phosphates. Welcome to Protein Imposters, where meat becomes more concept than reality. You see a beautiful photo of juicy chicken on the package. What you actually get is a Frankenstein creation assembled using animal parts you would never willingly eat, mixed with fillers you did not know existed. Mechanically separated meat is what happens when manufacturers take leftover bones, skin, cartilage, and connective tissue after good cuts are removed, then force them through a high-pressure sieve. What comes out is a pink or gray paste that looks like melted ice cream made of nightmares. A former poultry processing worker described it as the stuff we used to throw away until someone realized they could sell it. But manufacturers do not stop there. They mix this meat paste with soy protein concentrate, textured vegetable protein, and modified food starch. Lab tests found some frozen chicken dinners contained as little as 51% actual chicken. Tests on frozen meatballs revealed they were 43% beef, 32% soy and starch, and 25% water and binders. You are paying meat prices for a product that is half vegetable protein and a quarter liquid. How do they hold this together? Chemical binders. Sodium phosphate keeps water locked in. Carrageenan gives it gel-like bounce. Modified food starch acts like glue. A food scientist admitted, "We were not making chicken. We were making a chicken-flavored protein delivery system that could survive freezing, shipping, and reheating without falling apart." The texture tells the story. Real chicken has grain and fiber. It tears in a specific way. Mystery meat compresses with a rubbery, spongy quality. When you replace whole muscle meat with mechanically separated protein and soy fillers, you get less bioavailable protein, fewer vitamins, and more sodium and additives. And the chemicals used to hold that mystery meat together? That is where things get really interesting. Flip that frozen dinner box around and read the ingredient list. You will need a chemistry degree to pronounce half of them. Butylated hydroxyanisole, tertiary butyl hydroquinone, sodium benzoate. These are preservatives with names that sound like rejected Star Wars characters. BHA and BHT prevent fats from going rancid, but are also used in rubber production, petroleum products, and embalming fluid. TBHQ is derived from butane, the same stuff in lighter fluid. When you eat frozen dinners multiple times per week, those tiny amounts start to add up. Research studies have linked these preservatives to health concerns. Animal studies on BHA showed tumor development. TBHQ has been associated with vision disturbances and liver enlargement. Sodium benzoate can form benzene when combined with vitamin C, creating a known carcinogen. The industry response? It is within legal limits. Legal does not mean safe for long-term daily consumption. Frozen meals need these chemicals, even though they are already frozen. Manufacturers want products that can sit in warehouses for months, survive shipping, sit in store freezers with inconsistent temperatures, then make it to your home freezer, and still look the same a year later. Natural ingredients cannot do that. A former food scientist admitted ingredient lists are carefully constructed to stay just under regulatory thresholds. He said, "We knew the maximum amounts we could add before triggering closer inspection. Guess which number we aimed for?" Many of these preservatives are banned in Europe but legal in the United States. Azotocarbonamide is banned in Australia and the European Union because it is linked to asthma. In America, totally fine. Other countries decided these chemicals are not worth the risk, but in the U.S., by the time guilt is proven, millions have already been eating it for decades. But speaking of things that do not belong in your dinner, let us talk about the secret sugar problem. You bought chicken teriyaki, not dessert. So why does your frozen dinner contain more sugar than 2 chocolate chip cookies? Manufacturers sneak sweetness into savory meals. A single serving of frozen orange chicken can contain 19 grams of sugar. That is more than a glazed donut. A frozen teriyaki bowl? 22 grams. The American Heart Association recommends men consume no more than 36 grams of added sugar per day, women no more than 25. One frozen dinner, and you have hit 2/3 of your daily limit. Why so much sugar in savory meals? Sugar is a cheap flavor enhancer. It makes bland, low-quality ingredients taste edible. It creates caramelization when heated, and sugar is addictive, triggering dopamine release. A former product developer said, "We were told to find the bliss point, the exact amount of sugar that makes people crave more without realizing why. We were developing habits." But sugar does not appear on labels as just sugar. It hides under 60 different names: corn syrup, maltodextrin, dextrose, glucose, fructose, cane juice, barley malt. When you see corn syrup in the sauce, maltodextrin in the breading, and dextrose in the seasoning, that is the same ingredient listed 3 times to hide total sugar content. Asian-inspired frozen meals are particularly guilty. Sweet and sour chicken, orange chicken, General Tso's, teriyaki, anything. These rely on thick sauces that are essentially sugar syrup with soy sauce and food coloring. One consumer said, "It tasted like I was chewing on candy with a slight chicken aftertaste. And if you think the vegetables are balancing things out, you are about to be disappointed. Those bright orange carrot coins and green peas might look fresh, but they have been blanched, frozen, treated, and mixed with thickening agents until they are closer to vegetable-flavored paste than produce. Vegetables are blanched in boiling water before freezing, which destroys heat-sensitive vitamins, then frozen, rupturing cell walls, then treated with preservatives. By the time they reach your tray, they have lost 40 to 60% of nutritional content. A dietitian compared fresh broccoli to frozen dinner broccoli and found the frozen version had 53% less vitamin C and 41% less folate. But the real deception is fillers, modified food starch, xanthan gum, guar gum. These thickeners bulk up vegetable portions without adding actual vegetables. Check ingredient lists on frozen dinners. You will often find modified cornstarch listed before actual vegetables. That means more thickener than produce. Then there is the vegetable powder trick. Some manufacturers add dehydrated vegetable powder to boost vegetable count on nutrition labels without including more real vegetables. One nutritionist examined a frozen pot pie, claiming 3 servings of vegetables per container. The majority came from potato starch, tomato paste, and carrot powder. She said, "This is starch-rich, with vegetable flavoring." Consumer complaints about translucent vegetables are common. One photo showed green beans that looked like they had been soaked in formaldehyde. Another found corn kernels that turned into flat, rubbery discs. But even if you tried to calculate actual nutrition, the label itself is playing math games. That frozen pizza says it is only 300 calories per serving. Sounds reasonable, right? Until you realize the fine print says the pizza contains 2.5 servings. Who eats 2/5 of a personal pizza and saves the rest? Nobody. And manufacturers know it. This is the serving size scam, where companies manipulate portion sizes to make nutrition facts look better than reality. The FDA allows companies to define their own serving sizes. So instead of labeling a single-serve frozen meal as 1 serving, they can call it 2 servings, or whatever number makes the nutrition panel look least terrifying. A popular frozen mac and cheese bowl lists 260 calories per serving. It also lists the container as containing 2 servings. Most people see 260 calories and think, "Great, reasonable lunch." They heat up the whole bowl and assume they just had a 260-calorie meal. Wrong. They had 520 calories, 1,040 milligrams of sodium, 12 grams of fat, and 16 grams of sugar. Every number just doubled. A former marketing employee admitted serving sizes are carefully calculated to hit psychological targets. She said, "We were told to make sure the calorie count per serving stayed under 350, because anything higher scared people off. If the meal was 600 calories, we just called it 2 servings. The goal was to get the product into the cart." Then there is the single-serve package paradox. You buy a frozen burrito in a wrapper clearly designed for 1 person. The package is sealed with no resealable zipper, obviously meant to be eaten in 1 sitting, but the label says it contains 1.5 servings. How are you supposed to eat half a burrito and save the other half? Nobody does that. The packaging is designed for single-use consumption, but the label pretends otherwise to manipulate nutrition facts. If the serving size is wrong, every other number is also misleading. The calories are wrong, the sodium is wrong, the sugar is wrong. Everything multiplies, but most people only look at the front, where numbers look friendly. And just when you think you have decoded the label, they hit you with the most misleading term of all. Natural flavors. It sounds wholesome, organic, straight from the farm, but in the frozen food industry, those 2 words can hide dozens of chemical compounds, laboratory creations, and flavor additives that have never seen a garden. It is the ultimate loophole, printed on nearly every frozen dinner box. According to the FDA, a natural flavor is any flavoring derived from a plant or animal source. That definition is so broad, it includes almost anything. A flavor chemist can take a natural source, run it through chemical processes involving heat, pressure, and solvents, and the resulting compound still qualifies as natural because it technically started with something that grew. Flavor chemists create compounds that mimic real food taste: beef flavor that contains no beef, smoke flavor that has never been near fire, chicken flavor made from yeast extracts. A former flavor chemist said, "My job was to make people crave the product. We tested dozens of variations until we found the exact combination that triggered the strongest pleasure response. We were creating a better-than-real version that made people want more." Companies are not required to tell you which natural flavors they use or how many. The ingredient list just says natural flavors, and that could mean 1 compound or 50. It could include flavor enhancers, preservatives, solvents, all hidden under that vague term. Flavor formulas are proprietary trade secrets, so you get to eat mystery chemicals with a farm-fresh label. Chemically, natural and artificial flavors are often identical, the same exact molecule. The only difference is the source. If synthesized directly in a lab, it is artificial. If extracted from a plant or animal, even through heavy processing, it is natural. But your body cannot tell the difference. Manufacturers prefer natural flavors for marketing. Consumers see the word natural and feel better about buying the product. Here is what those natural flavors actually mask: poor quality base ingredients. If your frozen chicken dinner used high-quality chicken, fresh vegetables, and real herbs, it would not need flavor enhancers. When you are working with mechanically separated poultry, blanched vegetable scraps, and cheap starches, you need something to make it palatable. Natural flavors are the makeup on a bad foundation. There is also an allergen concern. Natural flavors can contain ingredients derived from common allergens like soy, wheat, milk, or nuts, and manufacturers are not always required to disclose them. One mother posted about her child having a reaction to a frozen meal that did not list their known allergens. The natural flavors contained a milk derivative not separately disclosed. She wrote, "I trusted the label. I thought natural meant safe. I was wrong." And MSG is hiding in your frozen dinner under a friendlier name. Some manufacturers list it directly. Others hide it under terms like hydrolyzed vegetable protein, autolyzed yeast extract, or natural flavors. All contain glutamates that function exactly like MSG. They amplify flavor, make you crave more, and let manufacturers use lower quality ingredients while delivering taste that keeps you coming back. One customer investigated after noticing every frozen dinner left them unnaturally hungry an hour later. They sent samples to an independent lab. Results showed the natural flavors contained yeast extract, hydrolyzed soy protein, and maltodextrin, all compounds known to enhance flavor and stimulate appetite. They posted results with the caption, "Natural flavors equals legal food crack." Calling laboratory science natural because it started with a plant is like calling a car a tree because it contains wood. Technically accurate, but wildly misleading. We started by promising you would learn what is really hiding in those frozen dinners. Now you know. Excessive sodium that could spike your blood pressure. Mystery meat, held together with chemicals and fillers. Preservatives with names you cannot pronounce, and side effects you do not want. Hidden sugars turning savory meals into dessert. Fake vegetables bulked up with thickeners and drained of nutrition. Serving size tricks that double your calorie intake. And natural flavors masking poor quality ingredients with laboratory-created taste. The question is not whether you can still eat these meals. The question is whether you want to. Look, we get it. Frozen dinners are convenient. You come home exhausted, and that colorful box promises a hot meal in 5 minutes. Nobody is judging you, but convenience should not come at the cost of your health and your right to know what you are eating. The real cost shows up later, in medical bills, in energy crashes, in the slow accumulation of chemicals your body was never designed to process daily. Not all frozen foods are evil. There is a difference between plain frozen vegetables and heavily processed frozen dinners, loaded with 30 ingredients you have never heard of. You can find better options. Look for frozen meals with short ingredient lists and recognizable foods. Better yet, batch cook real meals on weekends and freeze them yourself. Knowledge is power, and now you have it. You can walk down that frozen food aisle and actually read what you are buying. You can flip the box over, check the serving size, do the math, and make informed decisions. Your health is not something you should gamble with. These companies survive because most people do not ask questions. They count on exhaustion and trust. But once you know the truth, you cannot unknow it. Once you see the sodium levels, mystery meat, hidden sugars, chemical cocktails, and serving size scams, it is hard to look at frozen dinners the same way. You deserve better than meals designed to maximize profit while minimizing quality. So before you reach for that colorful box promising dinner in 5 minutes, remember what those 5 minutes might cost in the long run. Food should nourish you, not fill you with sodium, sugar, and science experiments. It should fuel you, not fool you. If this video gave you something to chew on besides mystery meat and preservatives, hit that like button. Subscribe so you do not miss the next time we expose what the food industry does not want you to know. Drop a comment below. Tell us which hidden ingredient shocked you most. Have you been eating frozen dinners for years without knowing what is inside? What is sitting in your freezer right now? Share this video with someone who still thinks frozen dinners are a healthy option. They deserve to know the truth. Thanks for watching. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu, but we will keep serving it anyway.